Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Cronin. I'm the librarian at NECB, and this is a tutorial on the EBSCO Business Source Complete database. It's an introduction to the database. What I'm going to be doing in the next few minutes is talking to you about how this database can help you with your research. Now, this EBSCO Business Source Complete database is one that is used at every major business school in the United States and by their students, including Harvard Business School, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, and the University of Chicago. It's a great database. It's a huge business database with over 3,800 full-text journals with leading publications in every major business discipline, whether it's finance, accounting, marketing. It also has over 7,400 industry reports, 2,500 market research reports, and over 3,700 companies with SWOT analysis. It is a terrific database that you will use over and over again for your assignments or researching a discussion question throughout your time at NECB. Let me go over to this. You can find the database at the home page of the eLibrary, and if you when you click on that button for the library database, you'll come to a page such as this. This is the opening page, and I just want to give you a brief introduction to how it's laid out, and then we're going to run through several searches so you can see how to make best use of this database. Along here, you'll see when you click New Search, it always brings you to this page. There's a subject here. There's a business thesaurus, which we're going to explore in a couple of minutes. Publications, how to browse, searching on a company, and then if you go through more, you can see down here indexes. This is a very powerful way of using the database. Going down the screen, you can see that when you type in key search terms in here, there are ways to limit it if you like. You can, over here, you can browse, and you can limit it by industry profile. You can also limit it by document type. You can limit it by date. Sometimes there are assignments where you're asked to limit it to just articles that appear in scholarly or peer-reviewed journals. By clicking on this button here, it will limit the search results just to articles from those types of publications. You can also limit here, like to case studies, conference proceedings. There's a great deal of power here. Going further down the page, you can see that you can limit it also by image types, ticker symbols you can search on. You can search on by the name of the company or a product. So there's a lot of ability here. But what I want to do first is run through this section up here and talk first about publications. If you click on this little button here, you'll be brought to this next page. And the reason why I want to mention this publications link and way of searching is many times you may be given, say, a citation to an article and it's missing some information and you want to look it up. Maybe you left off the page numbers when you were doing your research, or some of the volume or issue number, or the date perhaps. This is a good way to just track down by the name of the journal that particular article. It's also a great way of getting your imagination going when you're trying to think of a research topic. There are many classes at NECB where the research assignment is for you to write, well, let's say a macroeconomics course. The macroeconomics course, there may be an assignment where you're expected to write a research paper, 5 to 7 pages, and write on some current topic in macroeconomics. Well, you might be able to think of 1 or 2 topics off the top of your head, but if you want to get your imagination going and thinking of all the wide range of things you could possibly write on, a great way of doing that is to find a publication in that particular field and browse, look at all the titles and the abstracts of those articles, and think of all the other possible things that you could possibly write on. That's a really great way to get your imagination going. And if you're not sure of a journal that covers that particular discipline, it's a great reference question. We have reference scattered through the library and also at the front page of the library. 24/7 chat. You can send a live chat session, ask, what macroeconomic journal would you recommend, or what management journal would you recommend. You can also send me an email, and I'd be glad to recommend a couple of publications. So let's say, for example, you're writing a paper on management and you're trying to track down Harvard Business Review. Well, let's go in here, and what you do is just type in Harvard Business Review, click Browse. You'll see right there it says full text 1922 to present. That means with the entire run of Harvard Business Review in this database. I use Google all the time, but frankly, you're not going to find Harvard Business Review from 1922 to present. You may find an article scattered here or there on different websites. You may find some current articles at the Harvard Business Publishing website. But if you want the entire run, so you want to get all the articles from every single issue of Harvard Business Review, you have to use a database like this. So you'll get the entire, you can see the range from 2015 all the way down to 1922. That's the entire run of HBR. Let's just say 2011. These are all the issues for that. Let's pick May. And these are all the articles from that particular issue. And see all the titles there? Now you can get a little more information if you want. Let's see page options. Click on that. And what you could do is you can click on Detailed, and what it's going to give you is a brief abstract about what the article is about. So again, as if you're taking a management class and you're trying to figure out some topic in management, you can go down through here. This might be something dealing with communication, for example, or something on the C-suite, or something dealing with customers, or things customers hate waiting. So all of these are possibilities for you. And if you click on the HTML or PDF, that will bring up the full text of the article. Now what you could do also as you're going down through, you see this little folder over on the right-hand side? Click on that, and you could say, I like that, and I like this one, and I like this one. Go up here to the top of the page, click on Folder, and there are the 4 articles that I just chose. And what I can do is I can say Select. Maybe I have second thoughts about this one. I don't want to use this one. So these 3, I can then email them to myself, or I can save them. So it's a really great way of managing your research, because in this case we went through Harvard Business Review, but you may want to go back and run another search and use another publication. It's all being saved up here in the folder. And this is a great way of tracking your research, which you can then ship out to yourself. Okay, so that's how to browse publications right here. Now let me show you another way to how to retrieve an article. Again, an instructor, maybe a classmate if you're working on a team, gave you a citation and said, gee, this is a really good article. I suggest that you look at it. And what I'm going to show you just how to do that. So what you can do, I have an article here, one called Sealing is Believing. It's from a journal called Workforce, and a woman named Michelle Rafter wrote it. So what you can do is go in here and type in Sealing is Believing. And now if you leave it on Select a Field, what it's going to do is going to look for those words either in the title of the article, title of the journal, or the subject fields. What you can also do, however, is hit this drop down, and you can be a little more precise about it and say title, because you know that's the title of the article. And the author's name is Michelle Rafter. I'm just going to type in the last name because I think it's distinctive enough. If it was Smith, maybe I'd be a little bit more, maybe throw in the first name, but Rafter should be enough. Go here, go to Author, and let's click on Search. I could have added in more information. I could have added in the name of the journal if I wanted to, but this should be enough to retrieve it. And sure enough, there it is. And if I wanted to, I'd click on the PDF. It would bring up the PDF. The HTML is also. Not all journals have both HTML and PDF. It just completely varies. In some cases, it's just HTML. I happen to prefer PDF because sometimes with the HTML, and it depends on the publisher, sometimes some of the graphics, if there's a chart, for example, is not carried through. It's just the text. But again, it's hard to generalize about this because it really varies from publication to publication. The PDF, of course, will be like the electronic photocopy of how it appeared in print. So that's how you retrieve an article. Notice, by the way, if I go on here, some of these subject terms, every single article in this database, and trust me, there are millions and millions and millions of articles in this database, are tagged with subject terms. This is really very important when it comes to doing research in a library database, because you can do a keyword search. You can type in, for example, sex discrimination in women in fields up here, and it'll bring up every single article in which those words appear. The problem is, oftentimes it brings up thousands and thousands of articles, particularly as a very common word like credit cards. Another way of doing research is to use the subject terms, because every single article in this database is tagged with subject terms, and those subject terms describe what the article is really about. So it's entirely up to you. You can do a keyword search, but beware, you may be dealing with thousands of articles you'll have to weed through, many of which have little to do with what you want, because those keywords just happen to be somewhere in the article. Or you can use the subject terms, which is a little more advanced way of doing research. So let me show you an example of this. Let's clear. And let's do a keyword search, health insurance and bankruptcy. My understanding is that health insurance, or the lack of it, is a major cause for personal bankruptcy. So let's say I want to research this particular topic. So let's try health insurance. And let's type in the word bankruptcy. And so in this case, I'm asking for these words to appear either in the title of the article, the title of the journal, some of the subject headings, the abstract. Click here, and what do we get? We get 1,706 articles. My guess is, first of all, I'm not sure you want to review 1,700 articles. My guess is a good number of these articles probably have little to do with health insurance and bankruptcy. These words just happen to appear somewhere, but that's an option. You can certainly run a search like that if you want. Another way of doing that is to do it by way of the thesaurus. And what you're going to do is go in here, and we're going to browse and see if there are search terms for health insurance and bankruptcy. So health insurance. Click on Browse. And see this here? Click on this here. So what this is telling me is there is a subject term for health insurance. But sometimes the subject term that you want to be in there is not what the database uses. So this is a great way of identifying what is the subject term for your particular topic. So health insurance is a subject term that this database uses. You can also see, and this is a great way also of expanding your search, because many times there are numerous subject terms that really describe what it is that you're researching. So you can look for alternative terms. Maybe something, health insurance certainly may be a term that you want to use, but it may very well be also that you're dealing with managed care plans. So when you run your searches, you may want to run it with a number of different terms so you do a really good comprehensive search. Frankly, I have students who do Google searches, and they use this way of identifying search terms, because again, just doing searches in Google, how successful you are at retrieving good results is dependent on the vocabulary that you use, the correct vocabulary. So let's say health insurance is what we want. What we're going to do is I'm going to click on this little button here. We're going to say and look up here. We're going to click add. And it's going to pop it up there. Now, what I want to do is I want to see if there's a term for bankruptcy. Click on Browse. I'm going to click here. It's very important. And see this here, the scope note. Many times this will appear, and what it is it is the database's description of what their definition of what this term means. So it's a good way of clarifying, is this what the database? We want to make sure we're thinking alike, the database and myself. So scope note, yes, this is correct. So here, but again, you can see all these alternative terms, and these are all live links to additional terms, broader terms, narrower terms. So let's say bankruptcy, add. So what we're going to now do is we're going to run a search for only articles which are tagged with the subject headings health insurance and bankruptcy. So these articles should be substantially about health insurance and bankruptcy, unlike the last search. So let's here, click search. Last time I think we had over 1,700. Now we've got 130. So this 130 are substantially about health insurance and bankruptcy. So we've refined the search considerably. Now what we can do is we can cut it even further if you like. You could of course peruse these 130, but look over here. We could cut it by date. Now this extends back to 1990. We could say, well, I don't think I want to go that far back. I want to take it to say 2000. Let's say 2011, and we can cut it by full text. This database, a substantial portion of what's in here is full text, but there are in some cases just citations and abstracts. If you happen to encounter an article that you really like and it's not available full text in this database, send me an email. It's at the reference desk, and I'll see if I can try to retrieve it for you from another database. No guarantees, but my record of success is pretty good. So click on full text. I will cut it even further. Let's see what that does to the search results. Cuts it to 28. So these are articles that are substantially about health insurance and bankruptcy. They're full text, and they're from 2011 to present. Okay, so that's using the subject terms. This is a very powerful way of doing research. Let me go back over here just to show you again. Now, sometimes the search terms that you want to use, as I said, are not the ones that the database uses. For example, let's say you're doing some research on CEOs. Okay, CEO, and let's click Browse. Okay, so here it's saying use chief executive officers. So the database is telling you chief executive officers is the subject term that they use. So we click on here, and we click on here, and then we'd click add, and we could run a search on chief executive officers. Okay, so that's one example. Let's try another one here. Let me close out of this. Let's try another one, and let's try low income housing. See if you're doing some research on that. Let's see if that's a correct term. Click Browse. Click here, very important, next step. Yes, there is a subject heading low-income housing. You can see there's a broader term, housing, and it's used for low-income housing. It's just simply defining it here. So low-income housing, I would just click on that, add, pop up here, and then hit search, and it'll bring up all the articles tagged with low-income housing. Let me just show you a couple more examples just to make sure that you understand how this works. So electronic banking. This is the source. That is what we're using. So electronic banking. So click on here. Yep, there's a scope note, and so electronic banking is used. I would just click on that, hit add. It would pop up here, and I could run a search then for the articles that are tagged with electronic banking. And just one other, just to make sure that you understand this way of research. Browse. So real estate. They use real property. Click on here. Real property is, here's the scope note, And so you would use real property rather than real estate. So everything's vocabulary. It's important that you use the right subject heading that the database uses. And here are 4 examples of how to do that. Let me show you one other search in the using the thesaurus to conclude this tutorial. Let's go back up to here. Let's try electronic banking and fraud. Hit browse. Let's click on this. Okay, sure enough, electronic banking is a subject heading. There's a scope note. Again, I strongly recommend that you look at these terms. You can click on any of these links. It'll give you more search terms. Great way when you're doing research, whether it's Google searches, frankly, or whether you're doing searches in a library database. It's all about vocabulary. It's making sure you're using the right terms that are used by people who write and publish on this topic, and you'll be far more successful, and you'll have a good comprehensive search. And sometimes it requires several searches, trying different terms to make sure that you capture everything. So click on this here. Make this and hit add. It pops it up there. And let's say we're doing electronic banking and fraud. So let's see if there's a subject term for fraud. Click on browse. I'm going to click on here. Yep, fraud. There's a scope note for it. Click on here. Again, I have the choice if I want to do something else. Here. So it's going to be electronic banking and fraud. There's 138 articles which are tagged with electronic banking and fraud. So this is a refined search. It's not, you don't need to wade through 30,000 articles. These articles come very close to what you want. We could have gone further by limiting it by date. We could limit it to scholarly sources, to full text. We have a number of different options available to us. So that is the end of this brief tutorial that provides an introduction to the EBSCO Business Source Complete database. Of course, if you ever have any questions about this database, I strongly encourage you to contact the reference desk. This is why we're here 24/7 for you. So thanks a lot. Take care.